My name is Keith, and from the time I was about 4 years old, I was interested in being a part of the entertainment business. And I've done many things throughout that time, from singing in bands, writing music, hosting television shows, everything involved in the professional wrestling business. And I've written comic books, done a lot of things, and almost all of those things failed in some way or another. But I still kept going. I still wanted to continue to create. And there's just something in me that drives me to create. And I started thinking, well, what is it that drives anyone to create? And that's going to be the point of this podcast. We're going to talk to people from all aspects of the entertainment industry. We're going to find out what made them interested in creating art and why, when faced with success, when faced with failure, the ups and downs of life and life in the entertainment business, they continue to create. So, and hopefully we'll have some good and interesting conversations along the way that you'll be interested in hearing. So tune in to the Most Excellent Entertainment Podcast. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Most Excellent Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host Keith, and with us this week is musician, amazing singer, Jasmine Cain.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's great to be here with you. Yeah, it's awesome. We're sitting actually on our bus in Valdosta, Georgia. We broke down here yesterday.
Oh man.
So we're just kind of like stuck for a couple of days.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Jeez. Is that interrupting the tour at all? Like, are you missing dates because of it, or?
Luckily, I had finished what shows I had in Florida already.
Awesome.
I was on my way back to Nashville, and I've got some time until my next one. So I guess if you're gonna break down, this is the best time to break down. Not that I wanted to, but this is definitely better than it could have been. We could have had the whole band with us, and it's not. It's just me and my husband, and we could have had the trailer with us, and we don't. So it's not the extra weight and the place to park. So it actually it always works out somehow, kind of.
Yes. So just a little vacation in Georgia, I guess, while you're waiting to get it fixed.
Yeah, a stress vacation.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I went to see Blue October and the Damwells one winter. Like it was a pretty bad storm going on, and the Damwells were driving from New York City to Indianapolis, and they were driving in two separate cars, and one went off the road, and they didn't make it. So they ended up doing like a 2-man acoustic set, which was cool. I mean, at least the singer got there. If he hadn't got there, there wouldn't have been much of a show at all. But
it's kind of mandatory that the singer make it.
Yeah, for sure. They're just like, hey, we're gonna play instrumentals with a drummer and a guitar player or something. But
right.
But yeah,
we do acoustic tours all winter long, so it's not that's what we were down in Florida doing. In fact, we'll be back in Florida in January and February for our acoustic. We call it the Acoustiki tour this year. And we're on our way up to the northeastern states to do 12 days of acoustic Christmas tour coming up. December 5th is our first date.
Awesome, very cool. So what I kind of do on this podcast, I don't know if you had a chance to check anything out, but we talk about sort of like the musical journey the journey in general of the creative people, but with you would be a musical kind of thing. So what was it that got you interested in making music?
Well, I think it's like anything, we grew up in rural South Dakota, and there wasn't a whole lot of things to do in the wintertime. So everybody picks up a hobby, right? Like, you'll learn, my brothers were like making saddles and leather and boots and things like that, bridles, halters, things like that. But my older brother got a guitar one year, and he was my hero. He was, the only older brother I have. I had two younger ones. And I just wanted to be like him. So he would play this guitar, and I was just like, that's so cool. I just want to play guitar like my brother. But, he doesn't want to teach his little sister how to play guitar like it. So he taught me piano instead. So I was the keyboard player,
Nice.
And then when my younger brother decided to start playing drums, and we started a little family band. But I started playing, acoustic guitar, what I could, and some piano and stuff like from age 4. So I've been playing most of my life. And my dad taught me all the chords he knew, which was two and a half, I call it, because the third chord was just kind of some made up thing that he just was like close enough. Um, until I saved up my $1.97 to go buy my first chord chart when we went into town. So then I could teach myself the rest of the chords. But it's kind of funny. I mean, we were our own muse because we didn't have any entertainment, and this was pre YouTube and all that. We didn't have people didn't have computers. So, and for us, we didn't have TV either. So it was just kind of like whatever entertainment you wanted to have was up to you.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I know that you may have kind of had your heart set on guitar, but they always say that if you learn piano, you can play anything. It's
I think piano is my favorite instrument by far, but I never learned how to play it. I never really did learn properly. We had one lady out there that was um just like a chain smoker that would knew how to play piano, and she would come over to the grade school there where all grades, kindergarten through eighth grade, all are this like two-room schoolhouse. And there was a piano in the basement of it, and anybody that was wanted to take piano lessons, she was willing to teach. And so my mom decided she would invest in some piano lessons for me. And so I took one lesson and she sent me home to do some homework, but I play by ear. So everything that
Mhm.
she played for me, I just remember what it sounded like. And I went home and I just learned how to play it like it sounded. And then when I came back for my next piano lesson, I was playing notes that were on the next page. I hadn't flipped the page yet. And I got in trouble. So as she was as she was reading me the riot act for not paying attention, I felt something around my ankle and I looked down. It was a rattlesnake, and I kicked it off my ankle and took off running. And I never went back for another piano lesson.
Oh,
That
man.
was it.
I guess that was the sign, right? Get out of there.
It's like,
Jeez.
give me a sign. Is piano for me? No. So
Rattlesnake, yeah.
yeah, rattlesnake says no. So
Yeah.
yeah, I ended up playing guitar most of the time until my older brother quit the band, and then the bass player we had at the time was actually a really great guitar player, and so he ended up playing guitar and I ended up playing bass, and that happened literally overnight. We had a 2 night show going on, and my brother just played the first night and then uh did not play the second night.
Oh man. So I've always wondered about this because I've been in bands. I don't play an instrument. I just sing and write melodies. But a lot of times it seems like Paul McCartney is a famous example. He was a guitar player who switched to bass. Um,
Well, he
but
played piano too. I mean, he plays
yeah,
everything.
oh yeah, yeah. He was an amazing. He
Yeah,
is an amazing musician in general. He's a great drummer, honestly. Like he can pretty
yeah,
much do anything. But but originally he was a guitar player. He was going to play guitar in the Beatles, and then they needed a bass player, so he switched to bass.
right.
Um, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're both guitars," but if you watch the techniques and how you play them, like
They're so
very very different. Yeah. So what is that like switching to a different instrument? I've always wanted to ask people that. Like people always act like the transition from bass and guitar and back and forth is easy, but I would think it's really not.
depends on whether you decide to use a pick or your finger technique. Because,
Okay.
if you use a pick when you play guitar, then obviously moving to bass, you're basically doing the same thing with your right hand, but the strings are spaced farther away. So it might take you a while to like feel that out and feel where the spacing is. But for people like me that play bass with their fingers and don't use a pick, then you go to a pick when you play guitar. Switching back and forth for me, it's the whole hand movement, which is this kind of loose wrist kind of
Right.
waving technique versus set, very straight wrist, thumb
Right.
and finger picking only. They're so different. Not only that, but like learning to sing along with playing an instrument. When you're playing guitar, you've got like your whole arm as your rhythm, and so like it's a lot easier to like sing along with yourself when you're playing guitar. But if you're just sitting there very stagnant and you don't have any movement to your body and you're playing bass and you're trying to lock that in because you are the rhythm, you've got to be locked in. And then you're trying to sing like syncopated odd things on top of that. It just doesn't always work. And there's a reason why there's not a whole lot of lead singers that are bass players. They do not
Yeah.
go, not at all.
Yeah. I
Shout out
mean, getting
Doug Pinnett.
getting lean,
Yeah,
you know.
all those guys
Get
that can master it.
yeah. Yeah, it's just it's like you said, if you're not using a pick, it's like you're playing in a completely different direction. You know what I mean? It's just a different, yeah.
Yeah. No, nowhere near the same. So one of the bad habits that I have, and I'm again an unschooled everything. So again, one of my bad habits is I'm very percussive player because it's the only thing that I feel like gives me a rhythm to be able
Mhm.
to lock in. So a lot of times when I'm playing bass, you'll see me like slap the back of the strings, which is a terrible habit. You should not do that. But I do that. That's my timing. That's my timer. So like, if and like right now I don't need it. I have a drummer that is just locked in and I don't ever have to worry about where he's at. But if I'm ever playing with somebody that might be a little bit shaky or unsure about what's coming up next, you'll see my hand slapping the back of the bridge back there, and it's a sound man's nightmare. They hate it. I hate it. I'm sorry that I do it, but it's just a
Yeah.
bad habit I can't break.
Well, I remember when I saw, and in this, um, I may not be. I was in the crowd, so I may not have been seeing it correctly. But it seems like Flea slaps the bass with his thumb all the time when he's playing. Like he's
Well,
constantly, like,
there is
you
a
know,
slap bass technique, but what I'm
right.
doing is not playing an actual note. Yeah, there's things that you can do, but like for me, it's not so bad live. You don't hear it as much, but in a recording
Mhm.
studio, if you're doing
Sure.
that, that's where all your pickups are. So they can hear you smack the back of that pickup and it comes through the recording. And so it messes up your recording. They basically just have to edit your tracks in between your notes because you're slapping the pickup and it's making this weird noise. So that's
Gotcha.
don't do that. I have to be very aware when we go into the studio not to do that. Otherwise, I will mess up every track. Not for
Yeah.
playing the wrong notes, but because my stupid hand won't stop beating on that pickup. So, oh well.
Nice. So I've been listening to your music to get ready for the podcast because basically I discovered you guys through an ad when I was playing a game,
Okay,
and then I really liked what I heard, so I got a hold of you pretty much immediately,
nice. Yeah.
and kind of went through the catalog over the last week to get a little familiar with what you do. Um, and your music is kind of you go in a lot of different directions,
Yeah.
which I think is something that you couldn't really do uh, when record companies were kind of pushing everything towards radio. You know what I mean? Like you had to have a sound. But from what I was hearing, like you guys play almost industrial
Yeah.
music, hard rock. There's power pop, like Cheap Trick and the Knack kind of influences in there. I mean, it's just like, and there's modern hard rock, kind of like Daughtry-ish and Hailstorm kind of stuff, but then also like classic hard rock. It sounds like Guns N' Roses and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
sort of all over the place, but I think like the unifying stuff in the music is your voice. First of all, it's
Absolutely.
always you.
Well, I mean, the
And
thing is that no one told Sheryl Crow for all her albums that it had to sound the same. So, I
right,
mean, that was an inspiration for me. It's like, well, if this person, she was signed to labels until she
yeah,
started her own,
right, right,
and maybe that's the reason why, maybe the labels were wanting her to be more, have more continuity in her album. And she was like, no,
sure,
but I don't know any music lovers that just listen to one style of music all the time. I don't know
right,
anybody that just is like, I only listen to classic rock or I only listen to new rock. Anybody that listens to classic rock probably heard a little Southern rock, outlaw country, stuff like that, some blues. Like everybody, I'm saying like they like a plethora of kinds of music. So why are we as artists confined to a certain style to make everybody have to listen to that style this whole album? There shouldn't be.
yeah,
Shouldn't
yeah,
The genres shouldn't even matter. Like you said, you have to find the thing that makes it you. And for me, that's the voice. But
right,
lots of bands have made it their own by other sounds like the guitar tone. Like when you hear uh, you know, Cheap Trick's guitar tone, it's Cheap Trick, right? So,
yeah,
and certain other things, like when you hear a drum sound, like when you hear Vinnie Paul's drums, that's Pantera
mhm,
or Damage Plan. So you know from the sound, there's something about it that you can always pick out, and that makes them their signature thing. Or maybe
yeah,
it's like a lot of programming or something that they do in their music. Like there's always some sort of programming thing that happens in there that it just as soon as you hear it, Like when Sleep Token takes the stage and they start their intro track, you're like, that's Sleep Token. There's no question, you know?
Yeah.
They haven't
Yeah.
even said a note yet. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of like there's always something about a band you have to figure out how to make it your own signature, but people have been doing that for years through all kinds of other things rather than sticking to a solid genre. So
Yeah. I also think even with kind of like the power pop stuff, which I think is kind of my favorite style that you guys do. I love like
fine.
the energy and you
Yeah.
know, there's sort of a bluesy undertone through all your music too. Like I definitely hear like an old school blues influence in pretty much everything that you do, which is really cool. I
That's the
love,
vocal style, I think,
yeah,
because I was like, you sing blues first and then you
right,
learn how to, do guttural scream and then you learn how to do no vibrato pop, power pump pop, and stuff like that. So but you always start with blues. You start
yeah,
with soul music, and R&B, and that's always going to be an underlying tone for me because that's where I started.
awesome. So when did you actually start singing? Because you talked about playing bass and playing guitar and keyboards and stuff. When did you move to the front? Like when did that happen?
Well, as long as my older brother, the star, was there, I was not going to be up front. That was not going to happen. And he's
Right.
still the star. Like every time we're around, it's just like he's got that thing, the it factor. But he's quit music. He doesn't perform anymore. But I didn't really get to move to like a front position or even a feature position really until I left high school and left my family band. Um, and then I started on a hillbilly bluegrass music show 7 nights a week. And I would have features, like I would have certain songs that I was singing. Most of the time I was a yodeler, if you can believe that. I yodeled like old cowboy songs and stuff like that. So
Right.
um it was on the Mountain Music Show in Custer, South Dakota. And it's so funny now that I think about to it because there's still old videos that surface of people because they sold the video every night of like after the performance was over there were
Mhm.
videos for sale. Like you could
Oh,
buy them
nice.
out to watch, to take home the show you just watched. And it was on VHS, which is
Man.
so crazy back then. It was on VHS.
Right.
And so you could buy it on your way out and so every once in a while somebody will upload some of these songs from that there. But I would get like a few songs a night that were just my feature, and then I'd do some duets and some other things like that, some comedy bits here and there. It was a variety show, so we kind of did a little bit of everything, kind of like hee haw a little bit, you know.
Sure.
And so that was the first time that I was really like I was standing on a stage and I was a feature. So they taught me a lot on that stage about how to work the stage and how to be that, even when I wasn't playing an instrument, which was a whole nother thing because I never sang and played an instrument at the same time on that show.
Mm,
And
okay.
honestly, it wasn't until quite a while after that that I was, and I'm not even sure if I still know how to just properly front a band. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's always been a collective thing for me. Like the other members of the stage were every bit as important as me because we were a
Yeah.
power trio. I can't handle all of that and play the bass and sing and be stuck to this microphone. And
Yeah.
the other members they got to put in the work too. So I always tell them like that when they come in, they're always worried because in Nashville, it's a big no to outshine like to try to upstage the singer. You always
Mm.
let the singer have the floor, and then like you kind of stay in the background. So anyone I've ever hired from Nashville to perform with me has always been really scared, a little skeptical to like step outside and like absorb the spotlight. But I'm just like, no, I need you to. I challenge you to try to get that
Yeah.
spotlight. Just go out there and like get all the get all the attention you can. When I can hear like
Oh,
Kevin's over here sneezing, talking to his
oh, geez.
like I can
Well,
hear you.
that was the first time. That was the first time we picked him up. So so everything's good. Um. Oh, geez. Now, okay. What was I gonna? I forgot the next question. Um. But I think. Oh, yodeling. I was gonna just mention that I just We'll cut that little bit out there in the middle. But but yeah, I actually just introduced my son to yodeling. He's 10. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and we watched a couple of videos and he was just like he was captivated. He's like he's going so fast. Like this is amazing.
It's
It's
incredible.
really
And
That's
I
an
don't think
awesome
it's
skill.
something you can learn. I think you're either born kind of and you can get it and you understand it, or you don't. I don't think it's
Yeah.
something you can teach somebody's voice to do. I don't know. I've never heard anybody that like was a regular singer try to learn how to yodel and actually master it.
Yeah, yeah. I think
But
it
my
seems
dad
like
told me if I learned how to yodel and if I learned how to play the banjo, I would be the coolest kid in school.
nice. Awesome. Was he right or no? Yeah.
No, I was definitely not the cool kid in school.
Imagine just like walking in and yodeling and
Yeah, all my friends would be so impressed, you know.
right, sure. Yeah. Yeah. It was funny because one of the videos that we watched, the guy had no setup or anything. Like the crowd is just sitting there kind of eating dinner, and he
Yeah.
just walks out and just starts yodeling.
Yeah.
No introduction, nothing. He's just going. Like
Yeah,
it's
they don't
crazy.
even really use a mic a lot of times.
Yeah, yeah. He didn't have one unless it
Yeah.
was, like a boom mic or something. But yeah, he was
Yeah.
just going, man. It was crazy.
Wow.
Um,
That's impressive. It really is. I
yeah,
haven't
for
done it in
sure.
a while, so I've probably lost it a little
A little
bit.
rusty. Yeah. So, did you kind of always know that you could sing, or did you sort of develop into a singer over time?
Well, like I said earlier, we didn't have TV growing up at all. We had
Yeah,
radios on everywhere we went. So I was always singing along with the radio no matter where we went. And I think my mom was probably a pretty good singer. You never really heard her sing, but I think she probably could. Um, probably sing really well. And I don't know, it was just kind of I think I already knew. Like my mom said she knew, you know,
yeah,
because she told everybody when I was born that I came out screaming and then shortly after singing. So I think I've always been that way. And like I said, I
yeah,
was playing guitar at 4, so I was already teaching myself how to like play chords and play along with it. And I'd sit there and listen to the radio and see if the 2.5 chords my dad taught me were anywhere near the ones they were playing on the radio, if they sounded the same, and just go from there. And then after I got my chord chart, look how I was unstoppable because then I could play along with all the country songs on there.
nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, so one thing that I personally like, I have almost 5,000 CDs, and they
Yeah.
kind of go from every genre. Like I listen to classical music all the way up to like the
Mhm.
heaviest rock.
Yeah.
Um, but I was wondering like because you still release physical media, and to me that's really important. Like if I'm gonna follow a band, it's harder for me to be interested in them if they don't have CDs or albums that I can like hold in my hand and listen to, not just on my phone because you know. So
Well, a lot of people feel that way, which is why, and especially I tell people this all the time at shows. Not only do my new CDs, Attitude is Everything, not only do I release it in vinyl and CD, but both vinyl and CD come with a download card in it. So no matter what, you're still getting that download if you wanted to put it on your phone and be able to utilize it immediately. But like they're not putting CD players in computers anymore. They're not in cars anymore. It's harder to play stuff on a compact disc format now. And that's why everybody's just downloading. But we had so much pride in our collections when we were growing up. It was like our vinyl collections and our CD collections are before that our cassette collections. And I mean, if you go back into my parents' like closet of probably 8 tracks for days back
right,
then. But and they loved that. They loved collecting them. And many of them were signed. And I think that that's the other thing is when you're at a show and you're meeting the people, you're meeting the artists, and you just saw the show and you're like, wow, that was mind blowing, cool. I want something to take with me. Here's their music, can you
yeah,
sign this? Yes. And then you have something that's signed that you experienced right there firsthand. And even if you never open that CD again and you just download it on your phone, you've got it. And you've got the
yeah,
signature and you've got the media. And it's just like having something in your hand to walk out with is important, I think.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have been trying to buy a component stereo like I had in the '80s, and it's ridiculous. Like I can't even find parts for it. So
Oh no. Yeah.
you can get. I got like a little $30 boombox from the Dollar General, and that's what I listen to CDs on right now. But I'm still on a quest to get a better stereo.
Yeah.
Um, I
Well, it's so funny to like have seen primary media formats go from like I mean we had we had a car on the ranch, and it was something that we bought at like an auction sale, but like it only played 8 tracks.
Hmm.
So, you got to have your 8 tracks in the Ford LTD when you go out to the field, and you put those in, and then like, you buy your first car and it only has a cassette player, but we had the Walkmans with the cassette with the cable
Yeah.
that came out, right? Okay,
Yep.
so
Yep.
you
Yep.
plug that into your Walkman and you can play it, or you can play your cassette tapes that were in there. And then they graduated to CD players. And then you got all your CDs like in the visor, your like book that you open up, and you got them all in there. And so then we got really fancy. We got the 6 CD changers, so you can listen to 6 of them at a time. We were so cool. And
Yeah.
uh, now we have none of that. And
Right.
I think it sucks because
Yeah.
what do kids collect? What other, I mean, they collect t-shirts, bandanas, and things like that, clothing stuff, but like clothing ultimately gives up. You know what I mean? Like CD formats pretty much forever. And I don't know. And vinyl, obviously it's lasted all these years. So
Yeah.
and it's making a bit of a comeback right now just because of its cool nostalgia. But yeah, I feel kind of bad for people in this day and age and they look at us like, oh God, these old people that had all these older things or whatever. But like, there's gonna come a time and when you're trying to explain to, your kids or your nieces and nephews or whatever about like some band you saw back in, this time and how rad they were, and you wish you could play them their songs, but
Yeah.
you can't.
Yeah. My son, like I said, he's 10. And I started out introducing him to the first band that he really, really liked was Kiss. And
Oh,
then we kind of moved into like the Beatles and stuff like that. But now that he's older and he kind of discovers music on his own, everything that he learned is through like TikTok dances and stuff.
yep,
And
yep.
I mean, he loved Michael Jackson for a while, and I think he still does. But like, he just he doesn't have as much interest in the
It's
CDs and
more
stuff as I
more
do.
about the 30-second dance than it
Yeah,
is about any of the music, really. And
yeah,
it's yeah, it's just a different generation, it's a different thing altogether. But the one thing I've learned is you either jump on the train or you get left behind. So
for
uh,
sure.
we're constantly trying to come up with new ways to do that as well and just make it fun.
Yeah,
Because ultimately that's what it just needs to stay fun. And if they've got
yeah,
something that they love and enjoy and it involves your music, then more power.
for sure, for sure. I mean, the one thing about Casey, that's my son, is when he finds a new song on TikTok or whatever, it'll always be the TikTok song to him. But he also finds out who sings it, and like he'll watch the whole video and stuff like that. So it
Yeah.
for him at least it does lead to more than just a dance, and I hope that's my influence, but he had a buddy over and I had some of my CDs out and he's 10 going on 11 and did not know what a CD was.
Oh,
And
they have
Casey
no
had to
idea.
explain it to him. Casey
Yeah.
was like, "You play music on that." He's like, "There's music on there, and you put it in a radio, and you can listen to it." And he was just like, "What?" So
That's
it's-
amazing. And
yeah.
just look at people like rotary phones. Like
Oh
kids have no
yeah.
idea what a
Sure.
rotary phone is. I mean, this is mind
Yeah.
blowing. I'm just like, wow, that was.
Rotary phones were very
How
hard to
are we
win
gonna?
radio contests on. That's that's
I bet, because you had to time it right, so you're on
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
number.
yeah, yeah,
So like,
yeah.
yeah, so you're like, you already got the number all dialed in, and you're waiting for the last number. They're like, okay, caller number 3, and you're like, you hit the last one, and then wait for it to tick, tick,
Yeah,
tick, 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 all the way back
yeah.
down. Yo, your
And
caller
then
number 1.
if it's busy, you have to, dial the whole thing again. Once I got a push button phone, I programmed the radio station numbers into my phone so I could just hit like one and then I'd call it. Like, so I won a lot more contests after that.
Brilliant.
But
Now you're giving away the secret. Wait,
yeah, well,
you'll
geez,
never win again.
if there's even radio station contests nowadays, it's, but, oh,
It's
geez.
over now.
So
You're giving away the secret.
yeah, oh well.
Time to pass the torch.
Yeah, people listen to the radio from all over the world now too. Like, um, so there's this band called Dreamwife over in the UK who haven't done anything really in America, but they're an amazing punk band, and
Okay.
it's 3 women. They actually put the band together as an art project while they were in college, and then just continued playing. And I was listening one night to a radio station out of London, and they were the guest hosts that night, and their debut album was coming out. And I've gotten every single one of their albums since, and no one knows who they are. I'm just like, Dream Wife, man, they're so good.
I mean, you're turning people on to new stuff too, so that's cool. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, word of mouth works pretty good when you're trying to get
Mhm.
the name of your band out there. Like, some friend comes and sees you, and you've got a new friend, and now they go tell 10 of their friends, and it's that's how it works. Because you're not gonna
Yeah.
build the same relationship with a TikTok video. You're not gonna have a conversation with them. You're gonna, you're just a flash in the pan for 30 seconds, and it
Right.
catches, and then that's that's it, really. Um,
Yeah. I mean, live shows are really important with connecting with fans.
yeah. And like I feel like that's the biggest thing I think that people are missing right now is like the live shows are just so great. Like I can't tell you how many times people come up to those shows and they're just like, man, I haven't felt that young. Like I haven't felt that much energy and fun, and like I'm laughing and I'm crying and I'm dancing with people I don't even know, and now we're friends and I'm gonna go to their house for lunch tomorrow. Like, I guess it's
That's
the
awesome.
community and the network that you build by just going and being there is just so great. And I mean, I broke down in Valdosta, Georgia right now, and there's like 10 people that have contacted me that live here. They're like, hey, you want us to pick you up and, take you go eat somewhere, or you want to go hang out somewhere or get drinks or whatever? And we're like, hell no, we're going to have to pay for this bill. We can't go anywhere.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's the community that you build on the road, though, is really cool. Like, I
yeah,
know, Ani DeFranco. I'm from upstate New York, and I
wow,
remember she kind of like built this whole community in upstate and Western New York, and then it sort of just expanded all over the world. And she could go to different places, and instead of when she was kind of struggling, I mean, she's obviously not anymore, but she could go to different places, and like fans would put her up and like feed her and and
yeah,
and give her a place to crash. I mean, that's wild. Like,
we did that for 20 years, basically, just
yeah,
like hanging out at a friend's house. And it was fun because like it meant so much to us because it was saving us so much money, but it meant so much to them that we would come hang with them at their place.
yeah,
And it was like it was such a mutual thing. And like you said, we built like long lasting relationships with these friends that we'll have forever.
right.
We're always
Yeah,
gonna
for sure.
I'm never gonna I'm never gonna have a time where I don't come through Valdosta and be like, hey guys, I'm
Right.
at Whiskey River, come have a drink. It's like you
It's
never know.
awesome.
Like it's
Yeah.
it's cool. It's really cool. And the most interesting phenomenon of this, I because I know a lot of people when I first started out, they would always mention Anna DeFranco to me. That was a common person that I heard. They're like, "Have you heard of Anna DeFranco?" And because it was a
Yeah.
similar, we're doing a similar thing. We're building our following up a similar way. And I was like, "Oh, absolutely." So, but that was one thing that I remember hearing her name like a lot when I first started because we were doing the
Yeah.
same. And I put up a live feed today on Facebook and told everybody what we're dealing with and what we're going through and the stress of it and the uncertainty of it and how we just don't even know what we're going to do because it's such
Yeah.
a massive thing to deal with. And you got an hour and a half to figure it out. And the
Right.
support that you get from him, not only in just words of encouragement and like just get up and keep trucking, but then they start like sending you, a few bucks here and there and just try like, hey, anything we can do to help? Like, can we send you food? Can we do this? Can we do that? And it's just like it's overwhelming, honestly. And I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful for them. I don't even know what I do. I don't even know how I got here, but here we are.
Right. Right. Yeah, and that's another thing too, like the community that you can build online now. Um, and you can meet people who love the music that you love in Sweden. I mean, it's
Oh,
crazy like how you can build like this worldwide community. And I know you have a Patreon, which
yeah,
is a
yeah,
really cool way for artists and fans to connect with each other and for you to support the bands that you love, like on a really grassroots level. Like, you're giving them like some content and things like that, and they're repaying it with a few bucks, you know, and it's a really cool thing that builds relationships. So
Uh, I'm really lucky to have this. And I know that like if I wouldn't have started in the day and age that I did, it probably wouldn't be like this because
right.
that was just the way of doing it then and it's not now. So now you make your TikTok campaign or your challenge and you get it out there and then, people submit all their videos and use your music clip to do it. And then your name kind of catches on, but like nobody ever really knows anything about you. And I think
Mhm.
that's just tragic.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't
Definitely.
get to know anything about them either.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I just interviewed John Easdale,
Huh?
who he's my favorite artist of all time. I love Dramarama so much. And like I I don't know if I could have done that um 20, 30 years ago when they were hot, you know, and I was super into them. Like I don't know if I could have like yeah, it would have been geez 30, 40 years ago actually. but to be able to sit down with him and like make that connection through the podcast and I have his phone number now, you know. I mean, it's a really cool thing to like be able to talk to your heroes and
Yeah. And they just
yeah,
respond differently because they just like it was part of the deal. Like now, you see people getting like freaked out because like they get famous overnight from these TikTok things, and then they just are like, what the hell? What the hell? I don't want these people around me. And they get this anxiety, and it's just like when they start isolating themselves, it then puts them in a depression, and then it's just like a total like circle of hell.
yeah,
And because they didn't build themselves like well, I mean they built themselves, they were doing the same things that we were doing, but just like it's when it hits so hard for them
yeah,
that it's like you go from like playing clubs of like maybe 10 people to like now you're selling out Madison Square Gardens and you're like what is happening you know
right, right.
and there's no in
Yeah,
between, no building
the
of it in between.
yeah, the fame cycle is so different now than it used to be. I mean, it was quick in the 90s, you know, like now it's like, geez, you can literally be famous for 2 months and then no one hears about you again. And then it's like, how do you deal with that? You know, like there's millions of people one second and then 2 months later, like you're just back to your normal life. So it's really important to build a fan base, I
And I
think.
think when you're deciding what kind of an artist you want to be, you have to keep that in mind. Like, how long do I want to do this? Am I in this for the long run, or am I just trying to be that flash in the pan and get my money and get out? Like, is
Right.
this what I want to do for the rest of my life, or am I just trying to make that money and then get out? And I opted for the long road because I this is just always what I wanted to do, and
Yeah,
I just did it this way. And we didn't have the same tools available to us,
sure.
then as we do now. But I could still do that most likely if I wanted to be that flash in the pan and disappear and whatever. But I would always have my fan base to come back to because you built it and they're gonna be there no matter what.
Yeah, yeah. So, I want to talk a little bit. I know you've got, first of all, thank you so much for even coming on because you've got a lot going on, obviously.
No, I don't because I can't go anywhere. I have
Okay,
to
okay. Well, okay, cool. I just figure, you're waiting for repairs and whatnot. It's got to be,
stop closes in like 19 minutes and I ain't going anywhere today. So
okay, right on. Cool. So, I want to talk a little bit about the newest album. So I kind of listened to the songs in a mix. Like I listened to the Spotify mix, but I noticed with the newer stuff, it seems like that's what incorporated the electronic elements and kind of the industrial stuff. Um, so yeah, if you just want to talk a little bit about working in that style and what the new album's like and whatnot, that'd be cool.
yeah, so obviously we cleverly, and I can thank my husband Kevin for this. He does all of our graphics and stuff. We were trying to come up with a name for this album because we
Right.
did a lot more programming on this, and we were basically writing the song and recording it in real time, like as it was being written, like the parts they were coming up with, they were going down like immediate, and then we come back and we layer on and we do final vocals and all those things. But like a lot of the parts that we initially wrote when we were writing the song, they stayed on. So we were building from the ground up right from day one. And I really loved that technique. That was new for me because usually you get a song and you kind of play it out for a while and you decide what you want to put where, and then you get in the studio and then you just build it from scratch. But it takes so much more time and money and, to do that. That's two things we didn't have. So the fact that we were using all the parts that we just wrote right there on that same day, it's like, oh, that's done. The drum loop is done. The keyboard
Yeah.
pads are done. Like everything's done. We even we have these beats, hand claps, whatever it was. It's like, oh, it's done. It's already on there. We don't need to fix it. It's already there. So that was kind of interesting. The album title that we ended up coming up with was "Attitude is Everything," and we cleverly capitalized the A and the I, everything, right, because everyone right now is using AI to write their songs. And in fact, I just recently got a message from a friend of mine in Florida who's using AI. She doesn't play an instrument, but she's a singer, and she's using AI to write her entire song. And
Wow.
and you type it in there, you just like, I'm looking for a female pop punk vocal. I want it to use these words and generate a song in this style. And you give like 2 or 3 bands as an example, and you hit generate, and it gives you like 2 or 3 song sample choices. It's like, here's a song using your words, and a female vocal, so you can get an idea of what it sounds like, and a melody and instrumentation and the whole nine. And then all you do is fly that in, and it separates it by track. You take out the lead vocal and you sing, and you got your first song. It's crazy. Which I'm glad that people that don't play an instrument have a way to like be creative and write music without having to commandeer, the assistance of, 4 or 5 buddies that may or may not have time to do so. But like, it's kind of insane. Like, how are we going to keep up with that computer? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
they can churn out a song a day, and they
Right.
do. They do. They put out a
Yeah.
song a day. But we as artists, we're writing something, a thought process, something that has to be perfect. Like, I want the words to specifically say something that puts you in a mindset, or like, or takes you down a path of something that, you're all in on. And I don't know if AI is going to be able to accomplish that. It'll be interesting to see. I'm curious about that. But
Yeah.
that was the whole reason why the more industrial sound, the more programming and stuff on this album, was because even though we still kept it true to our roots and writing stuff like grassroots, like we do, we're not using AI to generate this. We still had to play on it because this is the generation of AI music.
Yeah.
And so that was the reasoning and the choice of our album title. And that was our first, it was supposed to be our first single, but it ended up being our second single because Victory got so much attention with this hockey sports season and football happening at the same time, that Victory was like immediately picked up by the Nashville Predators for all their hometown hockey games. Pittsburgh Steelers, all of Ohio State University. It was pitched to like ESPN and ABC Sports. And so it was just such a huge anthem rock, sports song, that we were just like, well, we have to release this first. The timing is perfect. So we did that first. But Attitude is Everything was our second single. And if you watch the music video, we also did our first ever animated music video.
Nice.
So
Nice.
the music video itself is all using animation. It took us about 6 months to complete.
Oh, wow.
It's quite a lot longer process, and it's because it's all line drawn. They line draw every single one of those characters and then make them move. Like, it's not, it's crazy.
Computer
A lot
generated,
of takes to do that. But the one cool part about being able to do that was that our Patreon members on our higher tiers, I was able to make them characters in our music video, robots, because they're all robots. So I could use like things I know about them, because I get to know the members of my Patreon from, especially on those tiers, a lot better. And they tell me what they do and whatever. And so like each of their robot characters was designed around how they are, who they are, what they do, which was really cool.
That is really cool.
Now they're in my music video.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Victory is a really cool song. I thought it stood out. So I'm not surprised that people picked it up and started using it for sporting events and stuff. It's definitely got a really like energetic feel to it, and anthemic, or
We have
anthemic.
a couple of other versions that we were looking at doing.
Yeah.
because we've got, yeah, there's just so much potential for that song to do so many different things. And it's like, so we are working on like alternate versions of the song,
Okay.
and
Cool.
we want to do at some point in time. But
Yeah.
it's the number of ideas that come through us are many. The amount of funding that we have to do said ideas is minimal.
Yeah, for sure.
That
Yeah,
keeps me
you could always put out like a maxi single once you get the different versions done. I remember the
yeah.
old
No, you
CD
that was
singles.
yeah,
Those
those were
don't even exist anymore. But
no, they were on cassettes too. You remember
yeah, yeah,
that?
singles. Yep, I remember
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
Oh,
So Wasted Rock Ranger by Great White. For the longest time, you could only get that song on the cassette single, and I bought Once Bitten, Twice Shy just to get that song.
oh,
This
no
is the only way you
way.
could get it. Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh. That's
yeah,
so funny. It's so funny, right? It's you got to do it
yeah,
for the song. They knew how to
yeah.
market that stuff too, but so much better back. Oh,
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
there was a T-shirt for a song that you could basically only get, but they played it live all the time, so it was like, and Once Bitten, Twice Shy was such a huge song, so I mean, people were buying it anyway, but they didn't release that song on any kind of media until they did like a greatest hits CD that it was on, but it was like years later.
yeah.
So,
Well, that's kind of how I felt about our song on Attitude is Everything, the song called Stupid Pop Song.
oh, that song's so good. I
That's
love that
something
song.
I wrote as like a joke. Like I was just like, this is ridiculous. I'm just gonna make fun of the fact that I'm writing all these pop songs now because I always swore, pop song. I'm never gonna write a pop song. It's just,
Right.
there's no substance to it. There's no this, there's no that. And I was always so like against it. And then
Yeah.
I'm watching everybody else just like do it and doing it in a much better way, like with actually much more content and something to say. And I'm like, well, I guess just because it always has been that way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. We can still write a pop song and make it like cool. So I'm like, I can't believe I'm actually gonna do this. I'm gonna write a whole pop album right now. This is crazy. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, what do you guys want to write? Like, I don't know, let's write another stupid pop song. Let's go.
That's
And
awesome.
that was it. And it was just making fun of all the earworms that get stuck over
Yeah.
all the years, the Britney Spears songs and the,
Right.
Spice Girls and,
Yep.
Billy Joel. My husband hates the Billy Joel years what was the album that went downtown? Uptown, well, Uptown Girl. That's
Really?
yeah, after when Uptown Girl hit, he thinks Christy Brinkley ruined him forever. And
Oh, I love the 50s style that he was doing during that time. But
yeah,
I honestly,
he was
From
so
Stormfront on, I
yeah.
was just like, ugh. I'm kind of getting into that stuff now that I'm older. But yeah, I hated We Didn't Start the Fire. I know that people loved that song, but I was just like,
Uh,
it's like the end of the world as we know it, but
yeah.
without the cleverness. Like he was just, that's how I felt anyway.
It
And
was
I just,
exactly like the end of the world as we know it,
yeah,
but it was and it's just so linear. It's like
yeah,
that one note is like dun 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 dun
yeah,
dun.
yeah.
Like, oh my
I
God, I
just,
can't take anymore. It's like a hammer on
right.
your forehead, like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I
but people love it.
started watching The Boys,
Oh
and
wow, yeah.
Huey is a big Billy Joel fan, and they go on a road trip, him and Starlight, and they play We Didn't Start the Fire, and they're singing it together, and it's like really energetic and happy. And I was like, okay, maybe I should revisit this song. But yeah, I don't know, man.
I love the fact that everybody just tries to sing along. You cannot possibly sing all the words.
Oh
So
yeah.
you're just yelling random words. This is if you ever want to get in your car and just yell random words at a certain note over
Right.
this tempo, like that's a great one to do it to.
Yeah. I always thought it was funny that the thing that finally broke him was the Cola Wars. That's the like, rock and roll the Cola Wars. He throws his piano like it's like the Cold Wars. It's too much. But
But we can't take any more.
yeah, I just can't handle the Cola Wars. But yeah, the stupid pop song. I love the drums in that song. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I really really my ears perked
Well,
up. Like I said, I'm a big power pop fan. I love Cheap Trick and Material Issue and the Knack and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. Well, that was the one song like stupid pop song. I really didn't think it was good enough to put on the record. I thought it was going to be one of those ones that we just kind of did for fun, and then we, live every once in a while, and we just kind of didn't worry about
Yeah.
it. But like, we put that on the record, and people just went crazy. And the other song on the record that I didn't think was very strong, but it turned out to be like a fan favorite, was "The Worst."
Okay. Oh
Because
yeah.
I thought like that song was just like uh we were running out of ideas, and it was like this is kind of funny where the idea came from, because Corey Feldman had played in town that weekend.
Okay.
And
Oh man.
yeah, well, I didn't get to go because I was out on tour, and so but our co-writers and stuff, they went.
Yeah.
And she said, like, after the show, of course, like Corey, I think Corey felt like his wife or his girlfriend or whatever is the keyboard player in the band or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was like, after the show, like he was trying to get her to come backstage and hang with them, like, and she's just like, I was like, did you go? And she's like, no. I'm like, this was your chance to hang out with Corey Feldman. You didn't go. And she's like, no, I didn't. It felt weird. I don't know. I couldn't get
Right.
out there. And so he kept like messaging her on Instagram. Like he found her on Instagram. And she's like, Corey Feldman actually messaged me. And I'm like, oh my God, it's not over. You could still get this chance. And she's like, oh, we're joking. We're laughing about that. Because she's married,
Man.
she's married too. And so we're just like,
Right.
and I was like, man, is he going to give you a hall pass for Corey Feldman? And she's like, he was like, yeah, go for it. I don't
Oh, that's hilarious.
know, whatever. But she said it was like the show was so ridiculous that it's actually hilarious. Like it's entertaining because it's so crazy. Like
Yeah.
it's just like what you've seen, I'm sure, all the videos of him like shredding on the guitar that's not really
Yeah.
him playing, and it's
Yeah.
just hilarious like to watch it going on. And he's so into it and he's selling it so hard, and everybody's just like screaming. It's so over the top. It's like it's so crazy. But we were sitting there and she's like, well, I guess if you can't be the best at something, then you can always be the worst. And I was like, yeah, we can.
That's awesome.
We
That's
can.
awesome.
So that
Yeah.
whole song was actually inspired by Corey Feldman's show.
There you go. Don't tell too many people that. He might sue you for
I need
creative
I like
licensing.
inspiration. Yeah, he was the
Yeah.
inspiration. Yeah.
Corey
But
Feldman is
I love it. I get it. Like it's funny to me because I'm just like he's out there killing it, you know?
yeah.
Oh, nobody
Yeah.
else is out there opening for Limp Bizkit right now. Like,
Right. Right.
you know?
Right. And I'm sure, like, in his mind, he's having these amazing shows. Like, he's just like, oh,
Maybe,
tonight was so
you
fire.
know, but maybe not. Maybe he just realizes it is what it is, and it's just
Maybe.
like he's just acting his way through it, and then like cashing the check and being like, "Haha,
That
idiot."
could be too. I mean, I wonder, like, how much of, like, that stuff, Corey's Angels
I mean,
and
he's
all
an
that. I mean,
actor, he might be just.
yeah,
It might be. It's just maybe it's a whole. It's just a show. Like
right.
it's another series in the. I don't know, but I
Yeah,
mean that's what's so funny. Who's talking about it? We are. There's something
yeah,
about it. It's just like
yeah,
good for him. He figured out how to be relevant in this really noisy world. He's got it.
right.
He's doing it.
Yeah, it's funny because back in the early '90s, I saw Extreme,
Yeah.
and Nuno Betancourt used a backing track during his solo. Like it was pretty obvious. Like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you remember. Some people might not remember this, but back in the '80s and '90s and probably the '70s too, which is before I was going to concerts. Every member of the band would get like a 20-minute or so portion of the concert to show off, like they'd play their instrument.
Yeah.
So
Solo.
Nuno during his solo section had a backing track and you could hear it. It was really loud. And it was
Right.
stuff that you obviously couldn't have been doing on one guitar.
Right.
And the guy, one of the people who went to the concert with me, was kind of making fun of him for it. And I was like, dude, the stuff that he was doing over that was still amazing. Like, who cares? And now backing tracks are
Yeah.
like,
Well, he
everyone
probably.
has backing tracks.
I mean, he probably played all the stuff that was on that backing track too. You just
Right. He probably just recorded it and then, yeah.
I mean, it's not that he's incapable. It's just some part. Sometimes there's more than one part in there, and you can't do them at the same time. So,
Right. Yeah, he wasn't Corey Feldman, is what I was kind of trying to get to. but yeah, I think there's so many people now who try to catch artists because of the internet and like they show videos and they're like, oh look, they move their microphone away from their mouth when they were supposed to be singing or blah. But that doesn't mean like they're not capable. You know,
No.
like you're Chris Cornell is one of the greatest singers of all time, and in the studio he harmonized with himself, and obviously he can't do that live unless there's another track. You know what I mean? So it's just I don't know. I think I think sometimes people nitpick that stuff too much. And Corey Feldman seems to be embracing it. You know, so good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
I mean, it's the day and age now.
Yeah, for sure. So, where can people find you? I mean, we talked about your Patreon, but we didn't talk about how to get to it and all that kind of stuff. Where can people find you on the internet?
So the best way to find me is just to go to jasminecain.com. And most of my links are there. I also have a link tree. You can search just Jasmine Cain. But yeah, Patreon is the same thing. It's just patreon.com/Jasmine Cain. I have a Twitch stream that I do. When I'm home, as much as I can. I do live like acoustic shows and sometimes full band shows on Twitch TV. So twitch.tv/Jasmine Cain. My Facebook page, of course, is just Jasmine Cain Rock. And Twitter page, Jasmine Cain Rocks for Facebook and Jasmine Cain Rock for Twitter or X. So yeah, I just recently got back into my X account. It's crazy. They like deactivated my account January 1st. And so
Weird.
Yeah, and so it's taken me all this time to be able to get in, but I'm back in. So every
Awesome.
morning I'll be back.
Welcome back.
Excited to be back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
we're actually gonna do a live stream here in about an hour. So I've got
nice. Okay. So, like we were talking about, you're broken down right now in Georgia. And finances for an independent artist are not always there. You know, it's always kind of but you've been making music since you were 4, which is amazing. What is it that keeps you going and keeps you creating music and keeps you putting stuff out to the fans? Like,
hands down, the people. It's like if I wanted to quit and I just said, guys, I just don't think I can do this anymore. So it's not sustainable. I'm just gonna lay it down and walk away. They just wouldn't let you. Their support is just so is so overwhelming. And today they showed me again that's like not an option. So like the things, whenever you start to think that like maybe it's time to just like move on down the road on something, the support of your fans, it'll come out of nowhere and it'll bring you to tears. It's unbelievable how whenever you need somebody to step into the ring, they come in full force and they just jump in and they're like, what do you need? What can we do? How can we help? Like, we're there for you. And I don't know how you could ever feel 100% alone or isolated in this business, even out here alone, when you've got the support of that many people at the tip of your fingers when you get online and say, I'm in trouble, I need help, and they come running. That's hands down what it is. It's all it is. That's everything. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, Jasmine, thank you so much for joining us. And I want to thank my producer, Tyler Martin, and ME Studios. Every single week I say it, but it's true. We could not do this podcast without him. He makes it all happen, to be honest. I just have the conversations. He's the one who gets it out to the world. So thank you so much, Tyler.
Well, I had a great conversation with you. I thank you so much for everything and spreading the gospel of Jasmine Cain. You rock.
Absolutely, for sure. Everybody, make sure that you tune in next week for the most excellent entertainment podcast.